Well, good morning, Orlando and Justin from Veeam. Justin, it's getting close to that enchanting hour of 10 a.m., so maybe we can go ahead and get things kicked off.
Sounds good. Good morning.
So today we've got the folks from Veeam joining us here at Ian Computers, and we're going to be doing a presentation that enables us to learn more about changes that are happening in the backup space. We've been partnered with Veeam for a number of years. They've been helping us back up traditional servers that are in many of our offices, but now that a lot of offices are going to the cloud, it's changing how people think about backup. So we're going to be talking with Justin today and learning about how this transition to the cloud is changing how Veeam is working to protect our data. So my name is Ian MacRae, and I am with Ian Computers. And Ian Computers was founded in 1997. We're based in Virginia, and we work throughout the Mid-Atlantic. We service Washington, D.C., but we're very proud of our Virginia roots. We've got a data center in Waynesboro, Virginia, and we've got staff that work throughout the state supporting our clients in Richmond, Washington, D.C., Roanoke. They live in those markets, service those markets. But if you call in and you get remote support, it's from our data center right now in Waynesboro. So we've got a team of about 25 people. And our vision is pretty straightforward. We're really focused on working with folks that have some complexity to their business. Maybe they have 20, 30, 40 employees, but they're not so big that they really have the demands to have a big IT department. Maybe they have one person on IT. Maybe it's a role that a CFO or somebody in accounting or operations is having to wear that hat along with other hats that they're wearing. So we really want to offer turnkey solutions that are pretty much ready to be used by our customers. So think of us as selling a baked cake, not the ingredients. So we're not just selling you a bunch of ingredients that you then have to assemble yourself. And really this philosophy came about because when I started out in business, I was doing just that. In 1997, I was selling the ingredients. We were selling, all the parts to build computers. We were selling all the services a la carte. And what we learned from that is that a lot of times people were so focused on just the costs going into their IT that they missed the big picture. They were so focused on the capabilities of just one system. Do we have enough storage capacity, or are we getting XYZ backup, that they might be missing the big picture of how the backup system is being managed, or are we utilizing all of the technology that's going to work together in concert, like virtualization, to really get a good result when we go to restore. So what we really do at Ian Computers is we look at those big picture costs and benefits around IT, looking at the risk and exposure, but also, what are the opportunities for automation? What are the opportunities for, the guy who is currently managing IT that might be doing several other jobs to just focus in on doing one job and doing things well. So we really want to look at the big picture with you and see if we can, get better results for you. And really to do this today with the types of complexity that all of us face in IT more than ever, you have to think about doing it as a team. So what we see in IT is that even in the smallest, simplest departments, there's some real tension between the day-to-day squeaky wheel type requests from users. Hey, my printer isn't working. I've got this funny email. I can't get this machine to connect to my desktop. Those types of things that really shut down your operations, your production. And then the longer term, more strategic aspects of IT. I've got this big server project to do. I've got to migrate to the cloud. I've got to put together a budget for next year. I've got some maintenance to do on my servers, and oh crap, it's after hours. You know, there's all of those sort of things that are very important, but not urgent, that an IT person has to juggle along with the day-to-day. So what we see is that often different personality types are attracted more to those you know, the transactional troubleshooting type work that comes in on the help desk versus that more you know, project-based or long-term strategic thinking. So we really see that right from the get-go there can be a breakdown in staffing, because you really need two different personality types to be successful in operating an IT department. Then you add in you know, the risk and compliance work that you have, which is very paper pushing. You add in you know, all the different engineering talents, from virtualization to you know, security, to phone systems, to printer systems that we all have in our business, security cameras, and boy, it gets complicated quickly. So we really see that a team is needed, and usually this breaks down because you know, we have a great team, we've got lots of certified people, but at the end of the day, it's about relationships with a client. So what we really want to be is a trusted partner for you. We want to be holistic and transparent. We want to make your technology a strategic asset. And to accomplish that, we really have to know what's going on with your business. So we really need to get a team up to speed on what's going on in your business, and work with you as a partner. We do all of this with a unique guarantee, a 30-day money-back guarantee. And we want you to have live answer help desk, bundled services and tools such as the backup and disaster recovery. And we're going to manage all the third-party vendors that may integrate in with your systems. So without too much further ado here about managed services, let's dive into what many of our clients are already experiencing with Veeam, and let's get deep here with understanding about Veeam and backup, and the changes that are rapidly taking place there with backup. So, Justin, with that tee up, let me go ahead and pass the presenter baton over to you.
Alrighty.
And make you the host here. And all right.
Hold on, I think you'll just have to stop sharing and it'll let me do it.
Okay. I am navigating between three screens here. It's like I need a faster mouse.
There we go. All right, let me get this shared out. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, beautiful.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, well, like we were saying earlier, welcome everyone. So while this is more primarily focused on backup for Office 365, if you aren't familiar with Veeam, we pretty much back up everything. So virtual machines, physical servers, workloads in the cloud. So if you are interested in those other services, just know that Ian can also provide those as well. But for this, we'll be kind of strictly focusing on Office 365 right now. So let's kind of dive right on in. Let me skip past that. So sort of the agenda here is just kind of discussing the shared responsibility of Office 365 backups. We'll do sort of an intro into what the product is, and also specifically what's new with version 4, because that just came out a couple months ago. We'll do a demo, and then we'll kind of follow up with a Q&A if we have anything after all this. Cool. So with that, let's kind of start off with the shared responsibility. You'll see this term quite a bit when you start dealing with Microsoft and software as a service with them, because there are certain things that they will take care of and certain things that they expect you to take care of. So first off, why do I need a backup? Microsoft takes care of it. So that's probably the most common question I get. The impression is that Microsoft will take care of everything. However, there's a little bit of fine print there. The reality of the situation is that Microsoft takes care of the infrastructure, but the data still remains the customer's responsibility. So Microsoft is only going to guarantee uptime of their service, not that the data remains protected from being compromised outside of the basic checks, like access, authentication, physical security of the data center, and things like that. So it's really just infrastructure as a service, but the software is running on there too. They'll guarantee the software is running. Whether or not your data is compromised and remaining safe in there, that's kind of on you. So let's kind of drill into this a little bit and what the shared responsibility model looks like. So first and foremost, there is the primary responsibility. They are guaranteeing uptime of the Office 365 cloud service. And then your Office 365 data, as you see down here, is going to be your responsibility. Access, control, all that kind of falls on the customer. Now, there are some supporting technologies. So Microsoft will go through and do geo-redundancy. And they'll also offer a recycling bin. It's just for short-term data loss and recovery. It's not really a backup. It's just you have to go through a couple more steps to make sure it's actually deleted. So on your end, what you have to do is make sure you got that data copied to a secondary location, just in case that primary source gets compromised in any way. And then it comes down to your retention needs. So we'll discuss this in a couple of slides, but Microsoft has a certain amount of time they're going to keep this data, and if you need to go above and beyond that, either you have to pay a whole lot more, or you got to do it yourself. And we would recommend doing it yourself because you get a whole lot more flexibility and functionality that way. Now, security, like we mentioned, they got physical security, logical security, app level, user and admin controls. But at the data level, you still have to worry about accidental deletion, malicious insiders, employee retaliation, kind of goes along with the malicious insiders, evidence tampering, depending upon your particular vertical, that may be a thing that occurs. And then you got the external ones, ransomware, malware, hackers, rogue apps, all the fun that exists nowadays. And last but not least, regulatory. So, there are regulations regarding data privacy, regulation controls, industry certifications, HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, all the good stuff. But you could have personal company, corporate or industry regulations that you need to abide by above and beyond that which is imposed by the government or whatever it may be. Or maybe just best practices. Your legal department says, hey, we only really need to keep this for 5 years, but, we've had many instances where we need to go back 6 to 10 years, so we're going to make that our internal policy. So it really just comes down to the shared responsibility model, what you're signing up for and being provided as part of their service, and what you kind of got to fill in for gaps. So a couple things here. Without a backup of your Office 365 data, limited access and control, regulatory exposure, security vulnerabilities, and retention policy gaps, which will have data loss involved there. Now, 6 reasons why to get it. Avoid that accidental deletion. Plug those retention policy gaps. Go through and prevent both internal and external security threats. Meet your legal and compliance requirements. And, manage your hybrid deployments and migrations. You get a lot more control when you go through and do this on your own, or through a service as we're providing here. Now, how often do these things actually happen? So we did a little bit of survey, got about 1,579 respondents. The biggest one above and beyond anything else was, shockingly, user error or accidental deletion. I'm not going to need this anymore. This thing's taking up 15 megs in my inbox and my employer only gives me 500. I got to archive it locally or something like that. I'm just going to get rid of this. I'm not going to need it. Smash cut to 6 months later. Oh, I did need that. So that's the biggest one. But then again, you got your security threats, retention policy gaps, thinking that was going to be protected and it's not, which we'll go into the next slide, just because you assume that's going to be there, but based upon the, the entry-level services that they provide, there's only a certain amount of time that data is going to reside within their infrastructure guaranteed. May archive off, may get permanently deleted, things like that. And then last 2 is just don't use or don't have one, and then the other. So let's kind of go through the retention policies. And these are the default policies. Like I said, you can go pay above and beyond that, but if you're going to be spending additional money, might as well get a robust solution. You'll have way more flexibility and functionality, as I mentioned. So first and foremost, we do have inbox or folder data. You'll go through and get 2 years worth of that. After that, it's going to move to an archive, which is going to greatly impact your ability to access and restore it. Deleted items, they're going to stick around in that recycling bin for a month and then they're gone. So if you didn't realize it was sitting in there for 30 days, that's pretty much it. You got your auto archive data, same thing. It's going to be set at a month, then moves to an archive. It's essentially cold storage, takes forever to get. Deleted SharePoint Online, deleted OneDrive. Same for both of these. First stage recycling bin, after a month, moves to the second, and then it's just gone for good. And last but not least, an employee leaves the company. So if you are no longer paying for the license for that particular employee, that stuff goes bye-bye after a month, unless you back it up some other way, because they're not going to keep protecting data for someone that they're not actively being paid for. So why is this all important? Well, let's look at this. So the average length of time from data compromise to discovery is over 140 days. But the default settings are only going to be for 30 to 90 days, depending upon what you got going on there. So 9 times out of 10, by the time you realize that it's been compromised or you need it, it's no longer there for you. And that's when a backup solution like this comes in place. And just kind of circle back here. So how long can you keep everything? You can keep it forever. You can go through and define your retention periods once you use a product like Veeam. You can go and say, okay, these particular people are going to be kept forever. These ones will be kept for 5 years, 10 years, whatever your requirements are. We can go through and help with that. So not to use Microsoft's own messaging against them or anything, but I'm about to proceed to do that. So you will notice on their web pages and within their documentation, it's your data. You own it. You control it. I don't know if they intended to give that message this way, but yeah, it really does mean that this is your data. You have to protect it on your own, just because that's not part of it. And another one here you might make note of, in this Backing Up Data and Exchange Online guide, note that point-in-time restoration of mailbox is out of scope of the Exchange service, so this isn't even provided. There are things where you can do like litigation holds and stuff like that, but it's not as fully featured as getting an independent backup solution. So let's kind of briefly discuss the challenges. So again, Microsoft isn't the data owner, not to beat a dead horse, but they're not. Archiving is not backup. That is just moving the data to a secondary location. It'll be a little bit cheaper, but there is a performance trade-off, and again, it's not a copy. Replicated copies are constantly updated from a single source. So when it goes from data center A to data center B, if something were to occur at data center A, great, now you've got a compromised version at A and B. It's not helpful. And like I mentioned before, litigation hold does have a use case. I mean, don't get me wrong, but that's not for backup. So from here, with Veeam, it puts the IT organization in charge of their own data. You access it when you want. You control it how you want. You can move it all about. You determine that. It's actual backup. It's not an archive. This is a distinct secondary copy. It's not just moving to another folder. And then that protects you against anything occurring to it. So you can go through and specify the backup repository, industry-leading recovery. So yeah, we're growing super fast on this. Everyone's getting on board this game now. In fact, these numbers are a little bit old. This is a slide from last year. I think we're well over 100,000 organizations now that have chosen Veeam. We've gotten recognition from Forbes Top 100, and we're a Microsoft Gold Partner, all that good stuff for our bona fides. So let's kind of dive into it a little bit. And again, I apologize. Some of this is going to be repeat stuff. But yeah, building on the previous slides, reiterating it, Microsoft's just hosting it. This is your data. You need to do something with it. So all that stuff you got in Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, make sure you have that somewhere else, just to be safe. And really it's just about protecting your data, quickly restoring it when you need to, and we'll go over that in the next slide, the different restore options, and also, again, meeting your legal and compliance requirements. Now, what can you do once you got this backed up somewhere? Well, you could do pretty much anything. So with Exchange, you can go through, send it back to where it came from in O365. You can send it to another Exchange server if you have access to one. You can go and save things at the mailbox level, at the subfolder level, and export them as PSTs and save as messages. You can go through and push it to the top of someone else's inbox or your own inbox or wherever it may be. Same thing with SharePoint. We could do everything at the the subsite level, the library level, the document level, go back to where it came from, secondary location, save them off, zip them up, restore to a prior version. So we will be doing versioning with it too. So SharePoint tracks all the different versions. We back all of them up. So if you need to roll back to 3 versions ago, we got you covered. And OneDrive, yeah, same thing. You can go and restore an person's entire OneDrive. You can send it somewhere else. You can copy it off. You can download it. You can push things back. You can restore and keep a copy, or you can just, overwrite whatever's in there. A lot of different options. Just know that once you've got this data protected, you can go through and pretty much move it anywhere at a moment's notice. And what are customers saying about Veeam Backup for Microsoft Office 365? Well, a lot of good things. I'm not going to read all of these out, but yeah, we get a lot of positive feedback on this. It gives people peace of mind. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a person and said, oh, this got deleted, but you guys saved me. It was great. Love hearing that, so feel free to relate that info back to us. And last but not least, just kind of toed our own horn here a little bit. So again, this was 2018. We need to get a newer slide for 2020. But yeah, exponential growth, 84K originally downloaded, well above 100. I think we're at like 12 million users now. Just tons and tons of people embracing this. And last but not least, let's just kind of wrap up what's new in version 4. But before we get into that, let's just quickly talk about where it started and how we got here. So we initially released back in November 2016. That was basically just for protecting your Exchange online and on-prem Exchange. So you could do your backup, recovery, e-discovery, all that good stuff. And then 2017 rolled around, we got 1.5. That's where we went and made it multi-repository, multi-tenant, added our PowerShell, RESTful APIs just so you could extend it, self-service restores, public folders, started supporting the government and Germany and China instances. And then 2018, that's when we rolled out OneDrive and SharePoint. Reconfigured that wizard, just made it a little bit easier to use all around. And then last year we had version 3. That's where we really started to heat up on there. 30 times faster backups, that was the minimum. We've seen in the forums upwards of 75 times faster. Just way, way faster with some of the stuff we've done under the hood. Also increased security. We started supporting MFA and some enhanced visibility and analytics, so different reports and stuff like that. Now that brings us to version 4. The big thing with version 4 is object storage. So you can go through, put it in there, you can encrypt it, all that good stuff. And that kind of comes into the next slide. So because what we're doing on the back end is when you're hosting this data on-prem, we're recreating the Microsoft JetBlue database. Databases don't like to be encrypted, surprisingly enough. But if you are leveraging object storage, we can go through and leverage that encryption there. AES-256, all that good stuff. And yet again, we have faster backup performance. So it's kind of an arms race with Microsoft. They are not heavily incentivized in allowing people to pull data out of their O360 environment. They will throttle you. But what we've done is we've gone through and added a way so you can have different service level accounts and security groups and things like that. So as one time's out, we can then go and use another set of credentials just to speed things up even faster than they were before. So we're doing our best to get around all that stuff. Now, let's get into how it works. So from a high-level architectural view, let me bring my mouse over here. You got your backup for 365. You've got your Office 365 environment up here. And I should also make note, if you are in a hybrid deployment, as long as wherever we're installing this can get into that Exchange server, we can pull it from here, we can pull it from here, and then it gets all combined in the same database on the back end. So if you're not fully migrated, just know that there's a path to protect your data along the way. I like to mention we do have object storage, so S3 compatibles, Blob, IBM Cloud, or on-prem. Wherever you want to land this data, we can. Hopefully it's in their data center. And over here, multiple recovery options. So we got the Explorer for Exchange, for SharePoint, for OneDrive. You got your restore options, send it through, save it off, export it, and there's also the self-service restores. Now let's dive into the fun part, the demo. Just give me 1 second to get that pulled up. All right, so this is the backup for Office 365. So not going to go into the full configuration. I will make one note here under the backup infrastructure and the repositories, just the way we go through and do this. So we are going to be doing it on a repository level. So you can come through and specify how long you're going to retain this data. So you can do a year through 25 and set increments. You can keep it forever, or if one of the increments doesn't quite fit your needs, you can always specify a number of days. And there's two different ways we can go through and get this data. We could do item level retention, which is more or less our legacy way of doing it, but still a valid option. That means we're going to go through and grab a certain amount of data and keep it for a certain amount of time. So let's use the example of I've been using O365 for 5 years. If I were to come in here and say I just want to keep 3 years worth of that data, we're not going to pull the entire instance down. We're just going to grab 3 years worth of created or modified items. The newer version is the snapshot-based retention. So for those of you that are familiar with Veeam, when we go and snap that entire VM and save that off as a backup, kind of doing the same thing here. So we're going to go and snap that entire O365 instance, and then we're going to pull that down, and then we're going to take that and keep that entire thing for 3 years. And every time you go through and do a new backup job, we'll bring down the new created items. We'll create a new version of all the ones that have been modified. So you can always go back to a different point in time and see how those particular items existed on that day. So that's kind of what we do there. Now, on the organizational front, it's really just coming in here. And like I said, we could do pure 365, and we could do hybrid as well. And you don't need to back up everything. You could do Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive. It's really your choice. By way of that, we also do grab the Teams data. So that's typically hosted in SharePoint. Got your chats going in Exchange. Got your docs going through OneDrive. So we can grab all that too, even if Microsoft doesn't have direct API hooks yet. And then I should also make note, we do support both modern and basic authentication. In case this is being watched after October of this year, it'll only be modern authentication. Microsoft recently made that announcement, so everyone get your app secret or cert ready. But yeah, we can go through and support both modern and basic at the moment. Now, in terms of going through and pulling this data down, it's really just, oh, actually, let me go over here and do it. It's really just going and specifying what you want to get. And again, it's kind of a recurring theme. You don't have to grab everything, but you can grab the entire org. You can go and pull down specific users, groups, sites, organizations. And if you do have different needs for different people, you can have different repositories. So if these particular users or groups need to be kept forever, cool, we'll send them over there. That never gets aged off. If they need to be kept for 5 years, we'll put them in here, and after 5 years, that'll go away. It really comes down to your particular requirements for this particular data. And it's also make note, you can do a reverse one too. So if you want to grab everything and then exclude users, groups, or sites, that's also an option too. It's really how you want to do it. And then over here, this is where we're going to process it. This is where we're going to send it. And this is how often we're going to do this. So we could do it daily. We could do it on certain days, every day. You can even do it periodically between 8 hours and down to 5 minutes. So if you do have any concerns about, well, you know, what if someone gets an email and they delete it once it comes in? Okay, cool. It's in the deleted items folder. We back that up too. What if they delete it from the deleted items folder? Well, it goes to the permanently deleted items folder. We back that up as well. What if they delete it from there? Well, at that point, they're an admin, and they should know better if they're deleting things that they shouldn't be deleting. But if you do have any concerns about that, we can do it every 5 minutes and just pull down quick increments. But typically, I've seen, you know, every 8 hours or once a day suffices. Really depends upon your churn rate and what your concerns are for people doing something they shouldn't do. And that's pretty much it in regards to getting it all set up. So we've got this data, we've pulled it down, we're storing it. How do we get that data back? Well, if I come in here, you just right-click, and I can go to the latest point in time, or I can go down to, say, hey, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever it may be, and we'll just build it out as it was at that point in time. Now, for the sake of brevity, let me just launch all these guys off for the latest and greatest. So we've got SharePoint, and we've got OneDrive. Oh, and if you do leverage object storage, we do warn you about transaction fees. So from here, oh, let me get the Exchange one up. Sorry, came up out of order. Here we go. And like I said, you could do, and bear with us, we decided to rename everything to Game of Thrones characters, which is no longer current and timely. But yeah, you can go and do it at the mailbox level. So if I want to push the entire thing back or restore it somewhere else, you can save it off as a PST if you want to move it about, or you can get a bit more granular. So let's go into their inbox. I can come in here, right-click, open it within the tool. Same thing, back where it came from, secondary location, export it, save it, send it to the top of someone's inbox. So once you restore it, they don't have to go and search for it back when it initially came in or to someone else's inbox. And we can always leverage our advanced find. So if you don't happen to know where something is, you can leverage any of those categories, any of those fields, and you can use some conditional operators here. So if the subject had ABC, maybe XYZ in the message, you know, sent by Bob, whatever it may be, you can build out a query, find it immediately down here, because we really are just recreating the same database on the back end. So, you know, when you go in Exchange, you type in the search bar, how quick and fast that is, we've recreated that within the tool. It's just doing a little bit of searching. And then you just right-click. Now, for SharePoint, kind of the same thing. Where'd we go? Oh, here we go, SharePoint. So come in, like I said, we could do subsites, we could do content libraries, and it's the same thing. You can go from the high level, so if I want to go and restore the entire library, save it, send it, whatever it may be. And you can always drill down and get a bit more granular. So if I want to open it, view the history, restore it, save it off, send it through, and yet again, advanced find. And you want to go key off of document fields or, you know, frequently used fields. If you want to go through and do it on time-based or just search for a particular document, you got all that different search functionality here. And last but not least, OneDrive. So let's see what the Queen of Dragons was up to after Season 8. Oh, she went into program management. So you can go through, look at the entire OneDrive, restore it, copy it, save it off. And same thing here. You can always open it up, view the history. I should note in this one, you can either overwrite the copy in there, or you can keep a secondary one. So you can just have that little secondary copy too, in case you don't know if you want to blow it away. and copy it, save it, send it. Same functionality amongst the explorers. It's going to be based upon what particular product you're trying to restore. And with that, the advanced find it again returns. Date, time fields, all that good stuff. Again, if you don't know where it is, just go in here and plug in a couple things you might be able to key off of, and you can find it real quick. But that's all it really is. It's just going to pull down your data, keep it somewhere, and when you need it back, we just need to know if you want to go to the latest point in time or some time in the past. From there, it's just right-click and say what you want. And with that, I will pass it back. Let me make sure I properly stop sharing. There we go.
Well, thank you, Justin.
Yeah,
that was really, really good. I do have a couple of questions. Ones that some of them are not deep technical questions, but ones that I've heard from clients as well. So we're all working in the cloud these days, and what if the cloud goes down? If Microsoft can no longer work, and it looks like from your demo there, you would be able to restore the files out of the system to some on-premise infrastructure. Is that right?
Correct, and that's not even a theoretical. There's been O365 outages multiple times in the past few months. So yes, if you can't get into O365 for whatever reason, this can be used as a secondary way of getting access to either your emails or things you have in your OneDrive, because we've got them pulled down. It's an exact copy of what you had at whatever the point in time you need it to be. Yep, you can always use this as a secondary source if you can't get into the primary.
Okay, and then probably in a cloud type environment. Microsoft is really focused on keeping their cloud up, so the chances of them really going away are diminished. But one of the things that is more likely to happen would be if you wanted to cancel your subscription, and it sounds like in this case you would be able to go through any sort of archives, even if you canceled your subscription with Microsoft. But an even more likely scenario that people might run into is if they ended up in a lawsuit and they needed to really go back through and archive a particular point in time. Now, in one of those types of scenarios, they might need to continue to conduct business in their production environment, but essentially stand up an entire parallel environment for the purpose of the lawsuit and doing the e-discovery. Would this type of tool allow them to basically create a second instance in Microsoft and then go through all the e-discovery in that second instance?
Yes, exactly. We've used this with a couple of clients, not specifically for that, but it does work for that too, where we just needed to get everything out of O365. They said, we're done with this. We just want to go back to on-prem. It's few and far between, but it does occur. But yeah, so you can essentially just take everything you have in there, and if you got a staging lab where you want to go and put all that there for whatever legal stuff is, and in fact, as I made note of, let's assume this lawsuit, the person that was at the center of it got fired. Microsoft only keeps their stuff for 30 days. So if you fired them, all their stuff's going away in 30 days, and lawsuits typically do not end within 30 days if anyone's had any experience with those. So yeah, you will have all that data. You can still discover against it, all that good stuff. That'll be on-prem for you wherever you need it. Whether or not you restore it into like an on-prem Exchange server, you could do that. Or since it's just in our backups, we've got all that same front-end access to go and search it and find things. So you could just use the tool itself.
Okay. Now, I think that with Microsoft, you have a 30-day retention for basically any, like you were talking about the recycling bin, and a user can delete something and it'll go into a recycling bin and stay there for 30 days. Now then, if the user is accidentally empties the recycling bin or is trying to tamper with documents, then it's going to go into a secondary tier recycling bin that only administrators would have. Is that the correct understanding of sort of the default capabilities?
Yes. So there is that secondary one. We will grab that as well, but the same rules apply to it. Once something lands in there, a countdown timer starts, and you may not even realize that because you didn't realize something got deleted. Maybe someone got in, they deleted your items, you didn't even realize it because it's items from 6 months ago. When was the last time I looked at an email from 6 months ago? Unless I was trying to find a specific attachment or something like that. It will go through and start deleting all that stuff. But if you've got it backed up somewhere, it's going to sit there for however long you tell it to stay there, which could be years or forever.
Mm-hmm. So that secondary tier recycling bin what's the countdown on that second tier? Is it 1 year, or what is the Microsoft default?
Oh, I'd have to go look it up specifically. I believe it is still just 30 days, regardless of which stage one it goes into. Let's give them benefit of a doubt, because I do know the SharePoint Online and the OneDrive ones go into the secondary one, but then they just stay there for 2 more months. So even if you got 90 days, that's still well above and beyond the normal period of time that you realize you've been compromised. So you really need to have that data somewhere.
So utilizing a tool like this, I know some of the companies we support will have multiple teams working to administer the IT function. So you might have a junior level person with rights to create and deactivate users, and then you might have more senior people that are overseeing things like backup. So you could use this type of backup system as well to to allow that type of compartmentalization, where if a junior level person deleted a sensitive user account, you're not just relying on their judgment to have that information there.
Yes, nothing against the junior level people, but yeah, you do have a secondary method of preventing mistakes from occurring. Let's put it politically.
Okay, yeah. I mean, because sometimes you don't know you're going to need those types of files until later. So I guess it looks like you can export these types of things to PSTs or things like that, which basically means that you'd be able to get even emails or other things out of a mailbox and then process them on premise. It sounds like you've even done that to Exchange. Is there anything that, I guess you'd have to, it's not a migration tool to Google though. I mean, you can't restore to another platform like that. Would that be fair to say?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Well, I don't want to say, well, it wouldn't be a right-click option, but you have all that data, so if you restore it somewhere, you can then import it elsewhere. I haven't personally done it, but I feel it's one of those where there's a will, there's a way type of deals.
Okay. Well, this has been really good. I really appreciate your time, Justin, going through the capabilities of the product, and really the next step with this, I mean, you're showing us all the administrative controls. Those are the types of things that our team is managing for our clients. Of course, we want to be transparent with what the capabilities are for the software that we're managing, or share that management responsibility with other IT professionals that might be employed by our clients. So I really appreciate you kind of cracking the hood and showing our clients what the capabilities are. If there's any other questions from anyone else on the webinar today, let's open up the mics. All right, if not, Justin, thank you so much. And really the next step with this would be to just reach out to us at Ian Computers, iancomputers.com. We've got a little chat option right there, and you can strike up a conversation with myself or Liz. We handle a lot of the incoming sales requests, and just schedule a meeting either via phone, web, or on site to get to know your business and get your data protected, and we'll help you with those things. So just check out iancomputers.com, and we look forward to talking with you more. Thank you so much to Justin, Orlando, and the team over at Veeam for being a partner.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Bye. Have a good one.
You're welcome.